In this video, we're going to take a look at positions where your engine might not evaluate the position correctly or might not come up with the correct moves. Actually, it's more of the latter, because as you see in this position, I don't just want positions where your engine doesn't give the correct evaluation. I want positions in which there's a clearly better move or a winning move and the engine cannot properly evaluate it. Now I use engine as a general term, but all of these runs were conducted with Stockfish 11. So some engines in certain cases can find the winning move. Some other engines, maybe weaker engines, maybe engines more fine-tuned to solving studies. Some engines like modified versions of Stockfish, one of them is called Sting. These are better suited to solve studies. Okay, that's another consideration, of course. But in general, when we talk about engines, Stockfish 11 is the be-all, end-all. And I'd like to, in these positions, number 1, number 2, I'd like to conduct these positions with Leela, but I did not do so for this video. Perhaps someone in the comments section will be willing to do it, or I can do it later. But for now, I didn't conduct it with Leela, because I didn't expect any new results, and I was excited to release this video. Neural networks should be even worse than Stockfish at solving these positions, because these positions really require deep calculations, and most of them are endgames, and where we know the neural networks aren't so strong. Some people claim that neural networks would be stronger in solving these positions, but in general they're weaker, and the experts do agree that they're weaker in solving these positions. Anyway, I want to show you this example. Here, in this example, this is not what we're looking for in this video. Because this, clearly, the white can only draw this position, because his king can't enter into the black camp. And this light squared bishop can only attack the c6 pawn, which can always be defended by this black king. So this position is a dead draw, but Stockfish evaluates it as plus 2.7. Now in general, plus 2 or more is a completely winning position. But in this case, as we know, it's a completely drawn position. And Stockfish doesn't disagree. It views this as a draw, but it's kind of a remnant of the evaluation function. The way Stockfish is coded, it has to give this position a plus. But, well, has is a strong word, but it does give this position a plus. But actually, in fact, it does think this position is a draw, because its evaluation is constant, okay? So it's plus 2.7 at depth 55, but at depth 60 it's also plus 2.7. At depth 40 it's plus 2.7. And if you follow its main line, that's included part and parcel in the engine configuration, it shows the main line a complete draw, just white shuffling his bishop back and forth, black king going from c7 to c6, from c7 to d7 to b7, whatever. So it shows a complete draw. So Stockfish views this as a complete draw, because its principal variation, or PV, this is a term we'll use in this video and in computer videos in general, shows a draw, and its evaluation is stable and consistent, doesn't change. So when its evaluation is stable and its PV shows a draw, I'm not going to include these positions. This is one of these positions. Another of these positions is this one. Again, minus 3.8, stable evaluation, depth 70 plus, same eval, and a drawn principal variation. This is another one. This is Penrose's puzzle. It became quite famous. Roger Penrose is a genius, but I mean, this puzzle really, he tried too much with this. Like, he imagined that it would show how human consciousness works, because humans would be able to solve this very quickly, while computers won't ever be able to solve this. But actually, funny enough, Stockfish 11 does solve this correctly. It gives 0.00, king f3, depth 78. Takes it some time, but it views this as a complete draw, which is reflected in its evaluation function even. Like these positions, it's not reflected in the evaluation function, but here it actually does show 0.00, which is a draw. And yeah, so Roger Penrose was wrong, because, and of course any human can see that this is a dead draw, because these pieces can't get out. if white doesn't take, of course, and these bishops do nothing, so white can just go on the light squares forever. So he really tried too much with this puzzle. There's been some criticism on this puzzle. You can view the articles, of course, in the notes. Okay, so for the first puzzle, which the engine gets wrong, this is it. This is a very famous endgame puzzle. It's an endgame puzzle by Gijs van Breukelen. The Dutch viewers will have to forgive me for my pronunciation. Okay, so this puzzle is very famous. It was given apparently by Plaskett to very strong players, and it is claimed that only Tal was able to solve it when he was walking. He took a stroll, came back with the answer. So that's in his head, of course. So that's one legend about this puzzle. Okay, so the engine here gives d8 equals queen, and it gives this an evaluation of minus 3.5. The problem is, after queening there's a check, black picks up this pawn, and he will probably eventually win. Now the weirdness in this puzzle comes, it's a mate in 15 basically, and the weirdness comes from, as you can see on the right side of this video, the under promotions to the knight. So let's take a look at it. So knight f6 check forces king g7. By the way, there is a good video about this puzzle by Chess Network if you want to check it out. I should have probably included it here. Okay, but I forgot to. Anyway, it's called one of the most famous endgame puzzles ever, something like that. I think I even got the name right to the T, but whatever. Okay, so knight f6 check, king g7. This is the toughest try. Whoops, I kind of gave away the answer there. Anyway, that's not the point of the video. Of course, if black retreats here, you queen with check, and king f7 you can queen, because then knight f7 check isn't available. Okay, we're not going to go into the nitty-gritty details. Let's just view the puzzle as is. So knight h5 check, king g6, and this check. Again, king f7 runs into the same problems, so this is the only move. And now you promote, distracting this knight so that you can come in with your king. Of course, you must take. All of these come with check, and now we have this configuration. Now if the bishop comes here, it's checkmate, right? But of course, white denies this opportunity, but black denies this opportunity, but white insists. Now bishop f3 mate is threatened. The only way to prevent it is an under promotion to a knight. We come to e4, intending to zigzag like this, and checkmate would be looming, so black promotes another piece. Now bishop c4 threatens bishop e2, which would be mate. Well, knight f3, then we take the knight simply. So another under promotion to block this. Then bishop b7, bishop b5 to checkmate here. Again, the knight can block, but it's only one block, so it extends the puzzle by one move. So knight c6 is played. We simply take the knight. Knight c7 to prevent this bishop coming to e8. Then we bring this bishop here, intending d1. Black can interpose, but unfortunately the knights can never connect. Were this knight able to come to c3, then it would be lost for white. But unfortunately this is not possible, and checkmate is forced. Stockfish does not see this. However, if you insert knight f6 check, Stockfish begins to find the checkmate. But on its own, it doesn't see it. Okay, so this is Gijs Study, Brooklyn's study. It's known as Plaskett's study, but it's a bit unfortunate to have it named after someone who, I mean, Plaskett is a brilliant grandmaster. He's authored very nice work. One of them is what's it called? The English Defense. I have on Foxy DVDs, Foxy Openings DVDs. You should check that out. It's very good. But he doesn't deserve to be the namesake of the study, of course, because Breukelen is the one who, or Breukelen, I don't know how it's pronounced. Sorry, guys. He's the one who, if you know, please post it in the comments. He's the one who came up with the study. Okay, so this is Friedel's study. Friedel is, of course, one of the big founders of ChessBase. Oops, I shouldn't have shown the move already. But anyway, Stockfish gives this an evaluation of minus 10.9. And The evaluation is kind of stable, but its move is wrong. It gives c4 check, which is crazy. c4 check does nothing. c4 check, what happens here? White is completely toast. The correct move is bishop a4 check, sacrificing the bishop. The idea is that if the position were completely closed, white would be able to draw, because these rooks can't enter, and this bishop can't enter because it's on a dark square. So let's see this play out. So check, check, check. All of these are forced. The king only has the light squares. He can't escape to the dark squares. So we keep checking. And now he takes, and we check. And now we have this construction, and it's completely closed. So these rooks can never enter the white camp, and this bishop can never enter the white camp. So it's a dead draw. White simply has to move the king around, and it's a dead draw. Now after bishop a4 check, king c4 is of course possible, but here we can simply do this. We could repeat with bishop a4 check, going for a draw, but actually here white even wins with c4 check. This is very dangerous because we do allow taking here, so we must be careful, but actually here, after this check, black is forced to sacrifice the rook due to the unfortunate configuration. Check. Again, he has only king b7 or king d7. He goes to b7, we take with check, and this is completely lost. We take this pawn, and we're up a bishop, and this bishop will collect all of these pawns. So king c4 would be dangerous. We could go for a draw, but we could go for a win. So bishop a4 check is the drawing move. And engines don't find this move. They do not. Okay, number 3. Again, engines don't find this. Now, if you look at this as a human, you really start to think about f6 check, rook takes h7, maybe even queen h5, these kinds of ideas. And there's a way to make them all work. Now, this is a 2004 game. It's a very interesting game. If you want to check out the opening, I've included a link to the game. So, Mr. Asoskas, again, Lithuanian viewers might want to correct my pronunciation. Lithuanian is a language I remember dabbling in when I was 13, but I haven't checked it out since. Anyway, so the correct move here is to sacrifice the queen with queen f6 check. Stockfish at depth 37 does not see this and instead wants to play b takes a4. Now 37 was a bit of a low depth for this video, but owing to the complete complexity of this position, 37 is quite okay. I mean, reaching depth 50 with this position would require a lot of computing time. Okay, so queen f6 check. Of course, if you try to double and take here, there's simply rook h8 defending all of these threats. So queen f6 check, sacrificing the queen. Bishop takes f6. We'll take a look at the sidelines later. G takes f6 check. King g8. We'll take a look at what happens on the sidelines later. And now the idea is that this mate with bishop h6, bishop g7, and rook h3, rook h8 cannot be prevented. So let's take a look. Rook h7. If you don't capture this rook, rook h3 would come and mate is unpreventable. So black does capture, check, bishop g7. c7 is kind of an annoying move, trying to capture here and then capture here, but simply f4. And black is cooked. This is coming, and this is coming. Two moves till checkmate, and black can absolutely do nothing to stop it. Absolutely nothing. Just absolutely nothing. It's unfortunate. You can try at home if you want to think about it. Now for the sidelines, king g8 here, not taking the queen. Simply rook takes h7. If the king captures, of course, we have this mate. And if the bishop captures, so king g8, rook takes h7. If now the bishop captures, again, we have the same idea. This kind of transposes to the main line. Or actually, it's an exact transposition. I didn't notice. Okay, so king g8. If instead the black queen sacrifices itself, we simply take back, and we have way enough material to be winning here. So bishop g5 check, king g7, we simply pick up the exchange and the pawn, and we're completely winning, as you can see by the material and the position. And if king g8, again we do the same thing, and this cannot be prevented. So knight c2 check is possible, but yeah. So this is another position the Stockfish 11 does not get correctly. Now this is a fun game between a It's a puzzle on Chess Tempo, a great site as well for chess puzzles. And other things, I imagine, yeah. But Chess Tempo is the most famous for chess puzzles. Now here, this position has been extensively analyzed on Chess Exchange, chess.stack exchange. You should check out the analysis. It's very, very long and very, very accurate, and it takes quite a while to look at it, but I tried to summarize it in this section. So the key move here is queen takes c4. The engine gives queen b5 at depth 38 with a relatively stable evaluation, possibly even indicating a draw. But queen takes c4 is a forcing move that actually leads to a winning endgame, or an endgame that was analyzed to be winning. So queen takes c4, queen takes, rook takes. Okay, all of this is forced. Now trying to promote, we prevent the promotion. He promotes anyway, and we come up here. And this endgame is supposed to be winning. All very forcing. Queen b5 probably doesn't really win because of this variation. Now this might win, but it's not so clear if it does. 4 against 5, yes, but this knight is active. The queen and rook can probably deliver stalemate, perpetual, so it's not clear. Rook takes c4 has, in the chess.stack exchange forums, has been analyzed to a draw actually. This is forced, this is forced, this is forced, and now queen b6 preventing the passed pawn. And here this has been analyzed as a draw. Even Stockfish agrees here. It views this variation as best, but to deliver a perpetual, and really this pawn will be promoted. So all of this counterplay not enough for rook takes c4. All of these variations are forced, so that's what's nice. So again, engine doesn't see it. It sees queen b5 as best. Depth 38, but it's a relatively high depth. So Shirov's brilliancy, this reached a depth of 70. Stockfish still considers a3, which is a dead draw. The only way to win is this amazing bishop h3. This is a very famous game. I've linked to it, of course. And I imagine most viewers know about it. The idea is to sacrifice the bishop so that these passed pawns can overwhelm this lone dark squared bishop for white. The idea is to sacrifice the bishop and to prevent white from having these two passed pawns. After g takes h3, white has these very weakened pawns, and these pawns become really strong passed pawns, which will win the game. My bad. So let's take a look how that happened in the game. If the pawn isn't captured, we enter this variation where we simply win a pawn, and this should be enough. It's opposite colored bishops, but 3 pawns extra, most of them being passed. Yeah, that's enough. So bishop h3, g takes h3, king f5, king f2, and now the king simply enters. Here, like king e2, we just meet with d4 and start promoting our pawns. So let's say black captures, we continue pushing our pawns and getting in with the king, and now this pawn will be pushed. If the bishop sacrifices itself, we have this other pawn, and white's king is not in time to stop this pawn. Here actually, when you put this position, Stockfish announces a mate in 21, but from this position Stockfish is blind to bishop h3. Okay, now Aman's study, not Aman Hambleton. This is a very insane study and very beautiful. Out of all of these puzzles, like the knight f6 one is of course by Geese, is Brooklyn, is very beautiful, but this one, wow, it's also the idea is novel. So Stockfish evaluates this at depth 47, another very high depth, 0.00 with rook f6. But the amazing and brilliant queen d8, intending an insane queen f6, is winning. The idea of queen f6 is a simple fortress. Well, not simple, of course, but that's the idea. So queen g7. Notice, of course, that white has his own threats. So something like queen g7, king g7, there's queen takes d7 check. And white is threatening these rook f6, queen f6 ideas, or queen e7 maybe. Like, it's very dangerous for black. He just can't do nothing here. So he has to play queen g7 to prevent these threats and threaten checkmate. But white now comes in with the insane queen f6. Of course, it's sacrificing the queen. If black were to capture with the queen, we would simply take back and enter into a winning rook endgame or a king at pawn endgame if black decides to trade. So we take with the rook and we take with the queen. And now you notice that this queen is trapped, right? Even if this pawn is pushed, b6 would continue trapping the queen because it can't go anywhere on this this file, this rank, and it can't go anywhere on this file. So the queen is completely trapped. So now it becomes, when these two pieces offset each other, so this queen is trapped and this rook needs to stay here to trap the queen. If this rook moves, okay, this would be a terrible square, let's say here, the queen can move. So these two pieces offset each other, so what remains is these two kings, and these two kings, that means we're entering a king at pawn endgame. And this precise king at pawn endgame, if you can imagine this position without these pieces, is completely winning for white, of course, because his king is much more active, and the tempos work out that white is winning. So let's see how that goes. So king g8 to prevent our threat. We were threatening rook g8 check, queen g8 taking, and just eating this pawn and promoting our own. So black needed to prevent that. Now rook f8 check is not possible because it's met by queen takes f8 check. So b6, a very important move, stopping this pawn from pushing and doing what? After d5, remember how I said b6 blocks the c7 square that would allow the queen to escape? Yeah, so b6 is a very important move. Actually, let's annotate b6 with an exclamation mark. Okay, so h6, trying to break free. h4, again the tempo game. d6, trying to win the tempo game. Just d4, d5. Seemingly winning the tempo game now, but white has rook f4. And the queen is still majestically trapped. All of these squares are occupied, and rook f4 protects d4. If king h8, of course, we do this maneuver, which we're familiar with. So now h5, again, seems to win, but no. White always has rook f6. White can actually do this toggling forever, so yeah, he's winning. So now king h7, and we simply pick up the queen and win the king and pawn endgame. And black has nothing else to do. If something like queen h7, we check, and then take the queen, and we're winning. So very nice study by Aman. Okay, Smyslov study. Smyslov was a great endgame study composer, and this is one of them. So here, Stockfish wants to play c7. This puzzle is all about Zugzwang. So this is the core theme of this puzzle. Black not having any moves. And c7 is suggested by Stockfish, with its main line going c7 and f6. But Stockfish did not think of switching up the move order, because f6 here is the key move for white. After f6, then you play c7. Of course, f6, you're giving up the bishop, so black will of course capture. If black doesn't capture, the position kind of remains the same. We could probably just take and play c7, then rook d8. So let's say, I don't know, black does this. This should be winning, because now we're threatening rook d8 check, and black can't capture because of checkmate. So this checkmate is the key theme here. So bishop takes h3, and now c7, threatening rook d8. So black may play c3. Any other try is simply met by rook d8. There's no way to prevent rook d8. Even if you go like rook e6, rook d8 is coming. And now the only way to prevent mate is to return with the rook. And this is an idea we'll see from here. So rook d8. The point is that this rook kills off this rook. So what's left is these pawns and king. And the king is, of course, can't move. So we're basically playing up a piece. So these rooks offset each other. This king cannot move, but this king can. And this bishop is fighting what? He's fighting these pawns and the king. And the king is in general given 4 points in the endgame. And in this case, it doesn't let us down. So this king will beat the bishop. So bishop f5. King d1, just wasting time, forcing black to move one of his pawns. Note that wherever the bishop moves, allows king c2, let's say to e6. And if it moves along this diagonal, we have, like if the bishop moves along this diagonal, we have takes and we promote. So the bishop really needs to keep an eye on c8 lest white promote. So if it remains on this diagonal, we just enter with the king. So the bishop is in Zugzwang, and if the pawn moves, we simply move with the king and wait. Wait, just wait until black is forced to give up all of the pawns, and we march with our king and escort this a pawn home. So let's see how this pans out. c2, c4, all the same, is met by the same idea. We just waste a bit of time, and now we're completely winning. The black bishop will have to move. We'll take this piece. If it moves this pawn, if it moves along this diagonal, we of course promote and win the game. So let's see c2 check. We just move around, waste time, keep wasting time, and we will eventually take this pawn and escort the a pawn home. Very, very nice study by Smyslov. Grandelius' Trap. This is a game by Niels Grandelius, and the engines in this position want to play rook b5. Why? For the life of me, I can't imagine why. They don't see the coming trap of the rook. When the rook comes to b5, the rook is simply dead. It doesn't have any squares, so it's trapped. And the engines don't see this. Well, Stockfish 11 doesn't at depth 47. Rook c4 is an easy draw. Well, not an easy draw. You lose a pawn in an end game. But with this passed pawn and the active king coming to c5, munching on b5, this should be drawn. But of course, white has the better chances. This is rook c4. Rook c7 might also be possible, but takes, also loses a pawn. And in general, that's quite bad. But losing a pawn isn't so bad when you play rook c4 in this case because of the active black king. Okay, but even when you lose a pawn, it's better than playing rook b5. I mean, this is given as a complete draw by Stockfish, but it's completely lost after knight d3. The idea here is that you can give up your rook and remain with these pieces, because this rook is completely dead. You just have to move your king here, take it, and you're up a knight. So let's see a sample line. Knight f5, attacking the rook. You simply protect the rook. Yes, that's the point. You don't move it. Actually, white's rook is trapped here, but black's rook is even more trapped, one could say. So takes, and we simply march with the king and eat this rook. And the rook has nowhere to escape. At maximum, it can sacrifice itself, but we just take back. It can't go here, can't go here. It can't do anything forever. So this is an idea missed by the engines. Alright, so we covered this. So let's go. Very nice trap by Grandelius. Gusev's Immortal. This is a very, very famous game, and it was played in 1946. Was that correct? 46 or 48 was it? Let's not mess up this recording. I believe it was 46. Okay. Wow, it's showing me how to use studies. Something I've used for a long, long time. Okay. So I'll go over the opening quickly. It's a dragon, a weird variation of the dragon. Blah, blah, blah. Nice sacrifices. The key moment comes here. Now, depth 55. Stockfish 11 gives queen a3 with a complete draw. But this position on chess games has been analyzed to a win in almost, I will say all variations. I'm pretty sure it's all variations. Yeah, because there was some very deep analysis I read. Yeah, I believe it's all variations. The key move here is an insane queen sacrifice. What could be the point? There's a video by Simon Williams about this, if you want to check it out. Again, I should have included it. I forgot to include the videos. Yeah, but you can find it. Gusev's Immortal. It's quite famous. Now, you sacrifice the queen, but what do? You completely paralyze black's forces. So this rook on h8 can never move. This king on g8 can never move. The queen can never move because we're going to get our rook to f1 and threaten f8 mate. And this rook is the only piece that can move, but it's easily stopped by the bishop here, which would protect e6. And just in general stop all of the rook's movements. So let's see how the game panned out. There is a lot of analysis on chess games if you want to check it out. So rook f1, threatening this checkmate. If rook takes e6, obviously bishop c4, and then we take on e6, and then rook f8 is mate. If I'm going to quickly over the study, again, you can check out other sources. So rook c8, bishop d1 is the insane move that's also not found by engines. The idea is to come to b3, maybe even plant it on d5 at some point, and just protect this e6 pawn. Again, queen takes e6 would be met by bishop b3. So rook c4 trying to sacrifice. Again, queen takes e6, rook f8 mate. b5 trying to protect the rook. We simply take. And now we simply play with the pawns. Again, queen takes e6 can never be played because of rook f8. So these pieces are offsetting each other. These pieces are offsetting each other. What remains is the pawns, and the pawns are completely winning for white. As you can see, we have 5 pawns versus 3. These pawns are effectively out of the game. So this is how the game ended. Simply, the queen can never leave, and simply here the pawn will promote. And if the queen goes back, we take, then promote. So it's completely winning. This is a brilliant game, and it's in the 1940s. Still, the engines can't solve this position, and that's amazing. Finally, number 10, Ladislav Study. It's a very deep and insane study. I'll try to show you all variations, but this video is already becoming quite a bit long. There are some honorable mentions here as well, 6 of them I will mention. Okay, so the key move is f4. The engines, depth 76 Stockfish plus 1.6 gives king d7. But this is a complete draw, king d7. We'll take a look at why later. First, you have to understand the study, then you'll understand why king d7 is wrong. Ladislav, by the way, is a very famous chess composer. His father also is a chess composer. Okay, puzzle composer. So f4, bishop takes f4, just sacrificing this pawn. What for? You'll get to see now. So king d7, we're trying to pick up b6. Again, opposite card bishop endgame reminds you of the Shirov game. Funny how it's a multiple of 2. The Shirov game was number 5. Ladislav's study is number 10. Anyway, might remind you of that. But still, if I'm able to pick up b6, then I can promote this pawn. My bishop will stop this pawn. So my bishop here will be able to stop this pawn. Or actually, a better square would be here. It will stop this pawn. My king would take here, promote this pawn. And if the bishop sacrifices itself for this pawn, I have the other pawns coming. Okay. So that's the idea. So bishop d2, I want to protect a5. Other means of protecting h5, such as h5, not protecting or going for counterplay. Simply I play here, and this would stop the pawn, and I would take b6 and be completely winning. So I really need to protect the pawn. I come here attacking the pawn, protecting the pawn, and now one of the insane moves, b4. This move traps the bishop. And this is why chess engines have problems with this, because of the trapped piece concept, which Stockfish doesn't really get. And that's something that's exploited by Leela in their games. a3 is a bad try. Actually, I'm not going to delve into the analysis, or I'll show you it quickly. I got basically all of this analysis from a Spanish site that included the study. So thanks to them for this analysis. Yeah, this is a table-based draw. Already from here, it's a table-based draw. Okay. So bishop a5 and b4. C takes b4. Of course, bishop takes b4. I simply take the pawn. And again, we enter what we talked about, which is winning. So c takes b4 and bishop b3 check. It's very important to play bishop b3 check, because otherwise black would play b3, sacrificing the pawn, but at least letting his bishop get out. After bishop b3 check, we enter what? Another one of these trapped piece situations. My bishop is offsetting this bishop. What remains is the kings. And this pawn endgame with these pawns versus this pawn is completely winning for white. Of course, white's king is even more active. So that's the key idea of the study. So king g7, I want to promote my h-pawn. If with king f8, I try to promote my b-pawn, I try to protect my queen side and just jettison my b-pawn, that doesn't work. Let's take a look why. White's king approaches, I promote with f4, and I'm fast enough here. And I'm fast enough, I promote, and this bishop is protecting this pawn. I take both of these pawns and promote on the same color square as my bishop. So that wins. Alright, so king g7. I keep coming closer to the pawn. Keep coming closer. King g6. And now this is the key move. King e5. I want to make black enter Zugzwang. What happens if king g5? I simply play check and keep pushing my pawn forward. Notice how this bishop protects f7. So I can simply come take the h-pawn and win. So I come and take the h-pawn. And black can never advance. And I simply come back and promote my pawn. So what happens if h4? If h4 I simply come back. And now king h5. And now the brilliant f3. And now it's Zugzwang. The pawn is lost. The king has to move. I come to g4. I take h4 or h3, whatever black does. And then I promote my pawn or come and nab these pawns. Depends what happens. But I'm completely winning, obviously. So now you know why it was important to play f4. Because if we return to the same position with king d7 instead, which is Stockfish suggested move with plus 1.6, if we go into the same variation, this is the same variation, right? Exactly the same variation. King e5, again, if king g5, we promote our pawn. But what happens if h4? Here, we don't have this tempo wasting f3. Because one of our pawns is in f3. So that's why it was so important to play f4 ourselves. Insane depth. Insane. Very beautiful. Now some honorable mentions. These honorable mentions, the engine might find them at extremely high depths, or earlier versions of the engine couldn't find them, but now it can. That's why they're honorable mentions, but they're not really puzzles that the engine can solve. So to show really what I mean, let's take a look at number 5. This is a puzzle that Stockfish can't solve at low depths, which is depth 45. Depth 45 is extremely high, but for this position, apparently it's not. But at depth 76 or something like that, you can check out more at the Talk Chess site, the engine announces a mate in, what was it? A mate in 35 from this position. Here the key concept is to sacrifice, come here, and then bring the rook here, come to h4, and sacrifice the rook. Take. And maybe rook h5, bishop h6, g4, bishop e3, these kinds of ideas. This is completely winning for black, and we won't enter into the details. It's a mate in 35, you can check it out yourself. But at lower depths, it's not found. Now this position is very interesting. It has to do with basically trapping the queen, as you can imagine. So first, white delivers this check. Here, check. Stockfish requires really high depths to view the solution. Depth 52. At about depth 40, it doesn't even view the solution. So this is how we go about things. Of course, here if black takes the rook, we take the queen. So black has to go here. And what's funny is that we're always threatening a discovered check. And the black queen has no safe squares to stop this check. Now, queen e6 is basically the only move. Let's say black gives us a check. We give a check back and win the queen. So queen e6 is the only move, because if we give a check here, black simply takes our checking piece, and now he's the one who's winning, he or she. So bishop d4, maintaining this kind of pressure. Here queen c4 is the only move that's safe from the rook checks. Bishop a1, threatening what? Threatening a Zugzwang. Now the black queen has to move. And wherever it moves, there's some kind of problem. So h4, like let's say queen c2, again, rook g2 would win. So black only has h4, and now we repeat this maneuver. Bishop f6, threatening what now? Threatening again to force the black queen to move. So queen e6, h3 would simply quicken the checkmate. So queen e6, make the checkmate faster. And bishop d4, queen c4, bishop a1. Again, rinse and repeat. You can see the pattern. And here finally black is in Zugzwang. Wherever he goes with the queen, he will lose it. So that's a very nice puzzle. But Stockfish finds it. Horwitz Study, another very interesting puzzle. The idea is of course a queen trap. But at very high depths, depth 62, Stockfish finds a mate in 20. So let's take a look at it. So here simply this, threatening to promote. Let's see what happens if black takes. We promote, we take here, check, and we enter in a winning endgame because we'll be a queen up. So queen b8, trapping the queen. Here, trapping everything. We only have this pawn move. So what happens if the pawn moves? We just come in like this, forcing what? Forcing the black queen to give itself up. We take, and we're simply, and there's no stalemate because of the pawn, and we're simply checkmating. Now Stockfish announces a mate in 20 because there are ways to delay this checkmate, but yeah. Now Benko's study is a study you can look at on your own. It's a very, very complicated study. At depth 58, Stockfish almost announces a mate. Earlier versions mistook the one, while at high depths the evaluation grows. Because at about depth 40 or something, I believe the evaluation is something like +2 or something, which really doesn't showcase the one. Now this is a very long study. I'll just show you the main line. There are these knight under promotion ideas. Here black is trying to go for stalemate ideas at some point. He goes for a knight. Here you can't capture this queen because it would be stalemate. But there's a brilliant move composed by Benko, rook h1 check. We will see king takes. Of course queen takes h1 is met by bishop e5 checkmate. So here this position is completely winning. Yeah, very nice study. But there are a lot of complications within, so you can take a look at them on your own. Now Blathy's study, earlier versions of Stockfish really had problems with this, but depth 99, yes 99, Stockfish finds these under promotion ideas. The idea is to simply checkmate black on this square, which is b3, with a knight. And you have to under promote precisely, because if at any point black's only move is moving the queen. And Blathy, by the way, and again Hungarian viewers need to correct my pronunciation here. So Blathy's work is all about these long maneuvering puzzles, and here only the queen can move. So you need to be very precise to make sure that when you bring the knight to b3, the queen isn't protecting it. So the queen needs to be a1 in the final position. So let's take a look. First you take the knight, of course. And now you need to play h3. h4 is only a draw, because what happens? You promote to a knight, and it can't get to b3 without the queen being on a2. So it's a draw. So let's do this. We keep going. Knight. We come around with the knight here. Like this. And finally checkmate. So if you want, I can show you what happens after h4. Again, the same variation doesn't work. Black only has these moves. And now if we try to follow the same route, or whatever route, we're going to be met with the queen being on a2. So what route did black take here? Knight takes b5, knight d6, right? So knight d6. And now this is the only move. Knight takes c4. And as you can see here, queen a2 comes and we can't win. Okay, so that's puzzle number 4. Finally, the final puzzle for this video. This is an insane puzzle. It was featured in chess.com's holiday puzzler. Unfortunately, I was not able to find the author of this solution. There's some talk chess puzzles which mention it in 2012. But I tried really hard searching for this, didn't find anything. If anyone knows the author of this, please be my guest to share. I asked Vinvin, who is an author of hard test positions for engines and a brilliant programmer himself. You can find his profile page on TalkChess and LeadChess, of course. Vincent Lejeune is his name. Yeah, so he mentioned this puzzle 2012, but he took it from a TalkChess poster who didn't mention the author. Maybe it was himself, I don't know, but it's a fun puzzle. So this puzzle is also not found by engines at a low depth, but at very high depths, Stockfish can announce the checkmate. So it's Rook d6 check. It's a mate in something like 27 or something. And here it's this check. We take here with check, and we take g8. And somehow in this crazy position, this is supposed to be checkmating. We're threatening to promote here. And somehow after bishop g7, I don't even remember the solution. There's some sort of win. Let's see here. It's queen c3. Yeah. Queen c3 threatening to take. And if black takes, we promote and checkmate. So yeah, it's a very, very insane puzzle. Just looking at it here, quite insane. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. That's it, basically. Don't be fooled by some puzzles. Some puzzles have been claimed to be not solvable by engines, but actually are. And some puzzles, like this puzzle, this isn't really unsolvable by an engine. The engine just gives a wrong evaluation because of a remnant evaluation function if you want. And yeah, I'll probably be making a part 2 of this video. There are many more positions the engine misevaluates or doesn't find the correct move. And I'd like maybe like some of these puzzles I didn't go haywire. Like Shirov's, I went haywire, depth 70. But some of these puzzles, like the one by this game by Asoskas, only depth 37. Maybe at depth 50, 60, Stockfish can find the checkmate. But I believe other testers have run it on the Rybka forum. They've run it to 50 or 60 and haven't found anything. But anyway, I'd be interested in the comments. Also, maybe a Lila version of the study, but probably I don't expect any different results. There are some other engines that are better suited. Houdini has found some of these. No, he's found the honorable mentions. I don't believe Houdini has found any of the moves in this puzzle. But Houdini Tactical might be able to find. And there's this modified version of Stockfish named Sting SF. I imagine I linked to it somewhere here. Let me just check. I might not have. Yeah, anyway, you can search online for Sting, S-T-I-N-G, Stockfish. It's a Stockfish modified version which analyzes study positions and can really come up with some insane solutions. So you can check that out if you want to. And yeah, that's basically it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, hopefully another part coming soon. Cheers, guys.